So here's a quick overview of what I'm going to cover today. So just some of the online resources that the Community Archives is sharing, what's available, and then some tips about searching, because I know each interface is slightly different and there's some sort of hints and tips about how to get the best out of some of these different resources. So I'm going to walk you through that. Hopefully this might help if you're struggling at all with using our online resources. So just a brief bit about the archives, which was established in 2010 as a three-way partnership between the City of Belleville, County of Hastings, and the Hastings County Historical Society. So all three of those partners looked after their own records or have their own records, some of which were being looked after by the Historical Society, others which were still in the municipality. So they established the Community Archives. It's jointly funded by the City of Belleville and the County of Hastings, and those two organisations put in about $1 million between them to build our new facility, which opened in 2016 in Belleville. Our collecting policy, because we're funded by the county and the city, is that we collect records relating to Hastings County and the City of Belleville. So if you're thinking about donating materials to the archives and it comes outside of that area, then we're not going to be able to take those. But if they're inside that area, that's fine. We will take anything. So we collect records, old records, current records, anything that reflects the history and the development of Hastings County and its people, we will collect. So this is what the Community Archives looks like on the inside. So we have 3 storage vaults and a reading room space, which is where the public come to look at materials. So these are the online resources that I'm going to cover in the talk today. So we have digitized, since I've been there in 2015 was when I arrived, we've been digitizing materials. We started with the photographs, and then gradually we've been adding other materials as time goes on. I had a summer student in 2019 who digitized our map collection. So she photographed about 1,000 maps. And we've been scanning the microfilm of the newspapers. We've been photographing original newspapers where we don't have the microfilm. And we generally scan things on demand when people ask for them. So if there's a file that you're interested in at the Community Archives and it's not been digitized, you can just drop us an email and we will scan it. And usually, if there's no issues with copyright, we will put it online. So the gateway to all this is at our website, which is www.cabhc.ca. So that just stands for Community Archives, Belleville, Hastings County. And this is our homepage, and this is where I'm going to launch off, hopefully, into a live demo. So we've got 3 big options on the homepage here. Actually, I will just highlight this. Sharing is such an important thing for me. What's the point of collecting all this stuff if we're not going to make it available? So sharing our history is what powers my passion, and that's why I'm here talking to you today. So this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to share as much of our history as we can. So these 3 buttons take you to various different places where that sharing is going on. So this first one, Discover Our Collections. If you click on that, which I just did, hopefully you can see that this has taken us to our catalogue homepage for the Community Archives. So this is a starting point for a lot of our textual records. You can see there's a search bar up at the top here. So some of our digitized material is available through this interface. So I'm just going to do a search here for a name. So I'm searching for William Riley. And you get 5 results searching for that name as an exact phrase just by putting the speech marks around it. And so you can see here that there's only 5 hits, but each one of them has a little picture next to it on the left here. And the picture means that there is a digitized item associated with that record. So let's click into this one on Bangor Township history. And you see there's the digitized item. And then if you click on that, it opens up a PDF file, which you can read or search if you want to. So this is the actual file that's been digitized and is now available for people to get to online. So somewhere in there, let's just have a quick look. There should be the name William Riley. So I'm just using Control and F to search within that file, and there we go. The pound keeper in Bangor was William Riley in 1902. I don't know if that's the same William Riley as the one I'm maybe interested in, but anyway. So that's how that works. So let's just go back to the catalogue homepage here. Okay, so that's the search box on the top of the screen there. On the left here, you can see there's a few browsing options, and there's also a list of the latest editions. So if you're just interested to see what we've added to the archives in the last week or two, this is the newest accessions that have come into the archives, and you can explore those. If you're not sure where to start, down at the bottom of the page is this blue section, and this is where we put links to some of the popular collections with digitized content that you might want to share or might want to explore rather. So here you'll see that some of the items are not on this website, but they're at the Internet Archive. So our catalogue system allows us to share a certain amount of material, but there is a limit to how big those files can be, just a limit from the platform that we're using. So if they're large files, we've switched to using the Internet Archive, which has no limit on the size of the files that we can upload to them. So that's why the newspaper collection, for example, is at the Internet Archive rather than inside our catalogue now. Originally, when I started doing it, it was inside the catalogue, but the limit on the file size meant that the quality of the images was not very good. In fact, you could barely read it sometimes. So that's why we're using the Internet Archive, so that we can put high quality images up and make them easier to use. Okay, so I'm just going back to my notes here so I know that I'm not going to miss anything. So we're going to start by looking at the assessment roles, because these are relatively new. They've been digitized in the last year or so. And we have two sets of assessment roles, both at the Internet Archive. And let's go to the link here on the Hastings County assessment. We'll get there. Okay, so I'm just going to try and move this again. So that brings up, right, our corner of the Internet Archive, which is obviously an enormous, huge website that covers the whole world. But this is our Hastings County corner of it. And this is bringing back just the assessment roles. And you can see they're arranged by date. So the earliest assessment roles we have for Hastings County municipalities is for Madoc Township from 1853. So most of our municipalities were organised in 1850. So the assessment roles and taxation records begin around that time. So these are all the different assessment roles that we've digitised that are available. So pretty much, all the townships in Hastings County are represented here. And you can use this search to narrow it down. So let's just put Trenton in. And you can see we've got, I'll just point out, go back here. Up here, it tells you how many assessment roles we've got. So 688 assessment roles we've digitised in the last couple of years. And this shows you the dates that they cover. And you can actually limit by date. So I'll just show you that. So we're only interested in 1890 to 1900. You can change those dates, and that will then change what you're seeing in the centre here. And it's obviously this number's dropped from 688 down to 239. So it's one way of limiting what you're looking at, stopping being overwhelmed. Okay, so let's just go back to that Trenton search. So assessment roles are all about the valuation of property and how much tax the municipality is going to be raising from people who live in the municipality. So let's take a look at this 1879 assessment roll for Trenton. I know it looks really tiny, but you can use these, because my screen is very small anyway, but you can use these controls here to zoom in and zoom out. So let's just use the magnifying glass here to zoom in and you'll get a slightly better view. So you can see from the names on the left here that this is an alphabetical assessment roll. Now, sometimes they're by lot, which is handy if you're doing a property search for property. If you're doing a genealogical search, these ones that are alphabetical by name are obviously going to be more helpful if you're looking for a particular family. So you can see the sorts of information that the assessment rolls hold. You've got the name of the person, their occupation, how old they are, although take that with a pinch of salt because I don't think they were always very accurate with their ages. And then where the property is located and how much the property was worth. So the valuation is useful if there's a lot and you're not sure when the building went up. Obviously, the valuation is going to jump when the building is constructed. So these can be quite useful for narrowing down when a particular house was actually built. Because one thing to bear in mind is that assessment rolls happen every year, unlike the census records, which are only every 10 years. So these are really useful records for filling in those gaps about where people might have been living in between the years of the census records. Oops. Okay. And over on the far side here, the sorts of informations that are recorded in the assessment rolls vary from year to year, but they often do have religion. So the religion of the family, this shows how many people were in the family, how many cows, sheep, and hogs and horses the family owned. I mean, that's lovely information that you probably wouldn't get anywhere else. And this is one of the assessment rolls where they also mentioned how many male and female dogs the family owned, which again, I think is one of the few ways you can find out whether your ancestors were dog owners. And as a dog owner myself, I think that's quite interesting. Okay, so that's Trenton. Let me just go back to my notes here and make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh yes, so some of the Belleville assessment rolls after the First World War record things like whether a person was a British subject or an alien. So if you've got ancestors who were new immigrants at that time, that might be interesting information. Okay, so let's just go back to the full listing again. So we're lucky in this area. In the Hastings County, the county offices kept a copy of the assessment rolls from the whole of the municipality between 1879 and 1906. So from 1879 to 1906, we have a complete set of assessment rolls for the whole county, which we've digitized, so you can get to them online. The boundaries and things changed, and the groupings of the municipalities changed over that time as well. So, for example, Wollaston Township is grouped together with Tudor, Limerick, and Cashel townships in 1879. But in 1881, Wollaston was established as a separate municipality, so you'll find it on its own. And then in 1887, Limerick Township also separated, just leaving Tudor and Cashel townships together, as they still are. Although I find those two interesting because they don't actually meet. There's a gap between Tudor and Cashel, and this is why, because Limerick would have been there at one point. And another one to be aware of is that Deseronto was called Mill Point in 1879 and 1880, but it became Deseronto in the 1881 assessment roll. And generally, assessment rolls were handwritten up to about 1940. So all the ones we've shared online, we've shared them up. The ones we have, we've shared up to about 1926 or 1925. So they'll all be handwritten, but there is one exception to that, which I'll just show you. Get back up to the top here. So Tyendanega Township, from 1898, I think it was, up to 1902 or 1903, they had this stamping mechanism. So like a stamp. So let me just show you what that looks like. So instead of writing the occupation and also the freehold tenant thing, they had this stamp that they were using to write that information. And there's loads and loads of different occupations. On this page is not a good example. There's lots of just farmers. Here we are: fisherman, cheesemaker, undertaker, merchant. And I can't get my head around what this mechanism looked like. Did they have a big container full of lots and lots and lots of different occupations? In which case, isn't that going to be really time consuming, loading up your stamp every time with the occupation? I cannot understand how this worked and why it was a time-saving device. I really think it's odd. So Tyendanega Township, they used it for 6 years. They were quite, committed to this technology, whatever it was. But then after that, they stopped. So mostly, apart from Tyendanega in those 6 years, mostly you're looking at handwriting. So if your paleography skills are good, you're going to have no trouble. But if they're not so good, you might need some help reading some of these records. And I want to show you one particular assessment role clerk whose handwriting I really love. So let's just go back to, we're going to go to the City of Belleville section of that. I've separated out the City of Belleville and the Hastings County stuff. So City of Belleville is all in one place, and the Hastings County stuff is, just get rid of this, it's really annoying that keeps popping up. Okay. So here you see our three main sections: the newspapers, the City of Belleville record, and the County of Hastings. So let's go into the City of Belleville. I'm just going to search. When it says metadata, that's just literally the description of each of these things. So I'm just going to search for, I think it's 1900. So with Belleville, if you're interested in a particular property, you need to know which ward it's in, because all of the assessment roles were done separately for each ward of Belleville, and I'll come back to that later. But we're going to look at Coleman by lot. Oh, good, I remembered where I was, because I was looking at this the other day. So this is the handwriting I really love. I don't know if it was a man or a woman who was writing these roles, but look at this handwriting. It's just so distinctive. I really love it. I sort of, as I was digitizing these, I sort of fell in love with this clerk because of the way they were forming their letters. The R's and the B's are particularly interesting, I think. So here's Reverend Burke. You see the B? It's sort of in two parts, which are not connected. Odd. And then the R is the same, GTR here. The R is sort of in two bits. It's very odd. And here's an example of how these can be interesting from a house history point of view. We've got a burned house. So Reverend Burke's property in that year there was a burned house on the lot. So I guess, yeah, you see the valuation has gone down probably from the year before, because now it's just a piece of land, no building on it. These ones obviously have buildings. So anyway, so that was just something I wanted to share with you, because you get lonely doing these digitization jobs and possibly a little unhinged at this point. I don't know. Okay. So I think that was about all I wanted to say about the assessment roles. So now let's have a look at the newspapers. Let's go back again. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the newspapers. Now, this one we've been working on a bit longer. You can see we've got 5,000 items in the newspaper section of the Internet Archive. And it's very nearly 200 years now of newspapers. So we'll have another 9 years and we'll hit the 200 point. So, but we've only shared them up to 2006. And with the Intelligencer, I've only shared those up to 1973. I'm slightly concerned about the copyright situation, so I feel like 50 years ago we're fairly safe. So these we have. It's not just the intelligence that we've scanned. We've scanned. It's about 20 or 30 different newspapers. Here's a list here. So we've got the Sterling News Argus, the North Hastings Review, Hastings Chronicle. The Ontario was running alongside the Intelligencer in Belleville for about 70 years. So we've got both of those newspapers. And there's a few other smaller ones. The Deseronto Tribune, we've got quite a few of those. And the Quinty Scanner as well, we've scanned that. And that's online. So again, you can do the same thing with the date. Let's just go back a page. If you're only interested in a certain date, you can edit these dates and limit it. So let's just look at the searching here. So with the assessment roles, because there's nothing to search inside the assessment roles, because there's no typewritten anything, all you can search with those is the metadata, so the descriptions of the assessment roles. That's all you can search. But with the newspapers, these have been scanned at high quality, as I was saying earlier, and uploaded to the Internet Archive. And then the Internet Archive runs its optical character recognition programs over those image files and turns them into searchable documents. And their OCR is much better than anything I can do in-house in the archives. So that's why we've done this. We've uploaded these high quality images, and then the Internet Archive sends off its bots to do their thing, and you end up with a searchable file. So this is why at this point you have to change from searching metadata to search text contents, okay? So let's try that William Riley search again. So we only had 5 hits, I think, on the catalogue, but now we're going to search the Internet Archive, and we get 85 results for that. And you can sort them different ways. I'm just going to sort them by date published here, and then reverse that. So now we're looking at the very earliest hits for William Riley. So there's a William Riley in 1859. And then we have something about vagrancy in William Riley in 1875 in both of the newspapers, the Daily Ontario and the Intelligencer. That sounds quite interesting. Let's look at that. So use the zoom to zoom in. And you can see a little bit of purple on there. So we're going to zoom right in so we can see it better. And then I'm just going to click on that again and center it. So here we have a story about William Riley and Fanny Riley, his wife, asked to be sent to jail as they could not find employment. The parties are from London. The magistrate sent them up for 10 days with hard labour, remarking that too many people come here to go into winter quarters in our jail. These parties might just as well have patronised some other county institution. And then this story gets taken up by the Intelligencer in a later issue. So this is page 46, and then page 50 here, there's another article about William Riley. So we click on that and it turns to that page. And then there's a whole column here titled A Painful Story. William Riley, who with his wife was sent up to jail for 10 days on Saturday last, being without means and unable to procure work, has had a short but very sad experience in this country. And then it goes on to talk about how they arrived in Montreal. Then they lost their 2 children, died, one of whooping cough and the other one from measles. Their money was exhausted on doctor's fees, so they lost their furniture. And then they got sent to London with a rail pass to get employment, and couldn't find any employment in London, Ontario. And then they walked to Belleville in March, this was, looking for work. So, it's just, these are the lovely little, well, lovely, not in this case, but these are the sorts of stories, that these newspapers covered. And it's just amazing what you can find out. And this particular story was brought to light by somebody in the UK who was trying to track a William Riley, and it turned out this wasn't the right William Riley, because he was married to an Annie, and this one was married to a Fanny. But yeah, so some really interesting stories buried away in these newspapers that nobody, has probably seen for 150 years. So I really recommend searching these for your families, because it's amazing what you can find out. Okay, that's right. Right, so let's go back to the home page. So back into the slides here, and then you get this hit in the middle. It takes you to our Flickr account, which is where our photographs and our maps can be found. So here, I'm a bit embarrassed actually about the first 2 photographs here, because they're not very exciting. I digitized these for our harbour master on Friday. This is the boat launch at Herkimer Street in Belleville. It's not a very exciting image. Most of our photos are a bit more interesting than that. So in fact, these 2 are quite interesting. These are aerial views. These 2 were taken, I think, in '87. These 2 aerial views were from 1975. So these are a bit more interesting. And then, so basically, we scan a lot of the images that come into the archives. And then, as I said before, we do scan things on demand. So this is a really interesting collection that came in. The family didn't want to donate the images to the archives, so we just scanned the images and gave them back their photograph album. So they had somebody who was in the Royal Flying Corps in the First World War in Deseronto. He was based in Deseronto, so all these pictures, most of them were taken in Deseronto. And usual, lots of crashes. Yeah. So the trick with Flickr is to use the magnifying glass here. It's not at all obvious what this does, but if you hit that, the search bar at the top will change, and you get this blue section, which means you're only searching the community archives. So I don't know why they make it so difficult to work out what that does, but so I'm just going to search for William Riley again. And so this is nothing to do with the William Riley we were reading about before, but these are some of the images. So these were taken by Bill Riley, who was a Belleville photographer. Yeah. I think this is Black Cheese Factory. Well, maybe not. So that's how to search just our photographs and not everything on Flickr, which is billions of different photos. And this also is where our map collection is that I was talking about before. So if we go back to the search, you can just search for, say, a place. I'm just searching for maps of Trenton here, and you'll see we have the fire insurance maps, which we digitized in conjunction with the public library here. And in fact, this map here is also one that was from here, that the staff of the Woodley West Public Library brought over to us to digitise. So we have a few Trenton maps. See, this one's been slightly ink damaged. Somebody dropped a bottle of ink on it at some point, so it's eaten, the acids in the ink have eaten through the map. But it's a really interesting map of. I think it shows the British Chemical Company. Yeah, here. So there's maps as well as photographs here, and we just go back to the home page. I think it shows you how many images we have on Flickr now. Well, I thought it did. Anyway, it's somewhere around 17,000 images now. So we've been digitising since 2015. So there's a lot of images, definitely worth searching. Okay. Let's Flickr. Oh, Belleville wards. I was just going to mention that. So if we just search for. So if you are interested in a house in Belleville, you need to know for the assessment roles. You need to know which ward it's in. So we have a couple of little handy maps here. This just shows you. So for the centre of Belleville, this just shows you for any particular street which ward you're looking for. So if you've got family in Belleville and you're interested in finding out more about their property, you need to know which ward they're in. And the wards changed as well from 1850 to 18. There we go. So this is the earlier one. When the wards were first set up in 1850, the 4-ward system, this is how they looked. So it changed in 1870. Okay. So, and here we are back at the archives homepage. And this last link just takes you to a page on our website where you can read a bit more about what we do. We've got we have a monthly newsletter, so you can subscribe to that. We have some online exhibits. Just quickly show you those. So there's one about Black residents of Hastings County in the 1880s. There's one about the Belleville footbridge. I really like this one. It's a trip up the Trent Severn waterway in about the 1930s of a group of young men who went up, and one of them wrote music later on. So these are the young men. Yeah, so you can explore those. And I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover today. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Go ahead.